I'm AJ Webster. I'm an educator and a revolutionary. I'm interested in not only the experience of students on a day-to-day basis, but also what future-focused education means. So how the students experience school on a daily basis and what that means for their future. We often hear people say that we need to educate students not for our past, but their future. And I believe that, but I also believe it's not for just any generic future, but for their individual futures. One of the things that's interesting is if you read what employers and colleges are looking for in the students that they're receiving, it has very little to do with content knowledge. They're focused on students who can think critically, who can communicate well, who can be creative, who can solve problems, who can work well with others and collaborate. I suppose it's not revolutionary to say that schools should have these components to them, but if they do, in the current models, it's usually just accidental. I believe in focusing specifically on those things, making those not accidental outcomes, but specific goals of what we're looking for. And that means changing your approach to what the day-to-day operations of school look like. For example, we need to make a shift away from our current love affair with content in current educational practice. So I'm a math teacher, I fall in love with math, I see the beauty of math, and I believe I can make every kid a mathematician in my class. Or I love history, and so I provide them with wonderful narratives that may land for some and may not land for others. But it's focused on the content often, especially in the current regime of standardization, standards, test taking. We sometimes lose the focus on what kind of thinking do we really want the outcome to be. I recently saw someone who asked the question, why should I teach early American literature to my students? They were looking for the way to provide relevance to those students. My question to them was, what kinds of thinking do you want? Because early American literature is merely a context to do other kinds of thinking. So we want people to be able to critically evaluate an argument, or we want people to be able to make comparisons between two unlike things. These are activities that we can do with early American literature, or watching different episodes of Voltron, or playing video games, or whatever mode we want to engage those in. It's important that you recognize, I'm not saying we throw content out altogether. There's plenty of content that we can dig into. The difference is recognizing that content's more available than it's ever been in the past. So it's no longer the 50 great authors that we can all agree to read and then everyone's fully educated. You know, you might need to read Murakami from Japan, or someone from a South American tradition, or Europeans or Middle Eastern authors. All of these different modes are available to us. So there's more availability than ever before. The other thing that's important to remember about this content that we hold on to in education is that it's changeable. It's always been changeable, but now the changes are faster than they've ever been before. So those maps that I colored as a high school student are completely changed. South Sudan exists. The whole complexion of the Eastern Bloc has changed. Or scientific discoveries change faster than ever. When I started teaching science, Pluto was a planet and exoplanets didn't exist in any real meaningful way. Now that's completely changed. So taking this idea of content and recognizing it's just a place for our students to do the kinds of thinking that they need to do to solve unknown problems that we'll face in the future. Our students will face problems in the future that we don't have the answers for. So it's more important than ever that we train them to be creative, divergent, thinking problem solvers. If we train them to just give us the right answer that we already know and we're just trying to tease out from them, we're not doing anything to help them solve unknown problems that we'll face in the future. For example, ethical problems that deal with finding new sources of energy and how we weigh that versus environment or indigenous peoples. These are big, thorny, difficult problems. We are served and our students are served by helping them from the very earliest ages, wrestling with big, complex issues. And that means changing our focus, again, from specific content that maybe we love, but maybe they don't, to contexts where we can focus on creativity, collaboration, problem solving, communication.